To make a graft that way?
No, not to graft, but to take a tree that's growing to make it a dwarf tree.
No, not really. Turn it all the way upside down.
Yeah, you take a strip about that big all the way around it and then just turn it upside down and put it back on the
if the
tree.
strip is this big around, you're not going to turn it upside down.
No, that wide.
But you're talking about turning the whole woody plant upside down?
No.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
the
Yeah,
outside
turning-
cambium
okay,
layer.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
taking
understand.
and
Yeah,
then
and I've
just
heard of it. I know nothing about it. Yeah, grafting too. You can put the buds in upside down, and sometimes you get some weird
haven't heard of that.
results.
What is Peter's last name?
I've heard about it.
Solaris.
Have you heard of it?
S-A-L-L.
Haven't tried it.
E-R-A-S. And the method is called Tatura trellis. T-A-T-U-R-A. Because the guy who originally came up with it in southern Australia for temperate crops
Maybe not on
was working in a place called Tatura.
Okay.
Yeah, if you search stuff like this, you can find stuff like on YouTube and so on. And yeah, I think you could do it. Maybe even if you can't sink posts in, you could use a lot of it. Small trees is really important.
How do you spell the palm that's for timber again?
The genus is Iriartea. I-R-I-A-R-T-E-A. They call it potbelly palm sometimes. I think they call other palms that too, but it does sort of have a potbelly. And they had, it's interesting, when we first got to our area, it was a 6-hour walk to the road. What people do when they first get to an area like that is clear for pasture. Because you can't make money selling fruits from 6 hours from the road, huh? But you can raise cattle and pigs. So everybody cut down the forest to plant pasture. Maybe corn first and then pasture. But the palmbiles are hard to cut down. So they left them. And there's a lot of them in our area. I don't know if you remember the picture we saw earlier. There's really a lot of them. They don't make much shade. They weren't much of a problem, so they just left them. So until a few years ago, there were tons of these palms left. Now that there's a road there, they cut them down to sell them. And they're beautiful black wood. Heavier than water, make a beautiful finish. The main use for them in Ecuador is to prop up bananas. Because, they don't rot, they last a long time.
How fast do they grow?
They grow slowly. To get one that's good for wood, 40 or 50 years maybe.
Wow.
They grow pretty fast, but even a medium tall one that's 20 meters doesn't have hardly any black wood yet. It's got to be really big to have, that really thick thing of black wood. And this is another method of getting stuff to stay small. You make a little notch above a bud, and again that interrupts the hormone flow that's coming down from the top, telling that bud to not grow, so it grows. I've tried this with kind of limited success, but it seems like sometimes it works. And these are methods he has of deciding how you're going to prune. Pulasan. Pulasan's a relative of rambutan. Better than rambutan, pretty much everybody says. Maybe as good as a lychee, or better. Really good. Relative of rambutan and lychee too. Very similar, really.
Oh, cute.
Dogs love jackfruit.
Picture that.
This is another Maticia quadribea. More of an ornamental, they're kind of small fruits. All of those Maticias have really pretty flowers like this. This is an Anonacia, like a chirimoya relative, native on our farm. Tastes kind of like a Rollinia. Sweet, but kind of bland. Really pretty. It's a really small, almost unbranched tree. Raimondia is the genus. This is the same cactus that's the local native. This is red salac. Salac does really well where I am. Red salac is quite different from the common Bali salac. Different texture, different taste. Really pretty. There's a lot of different salacs.
Is it real thorny?
The palm is very thorny, yes. The fruits are not. You know, most salacs have a little bit of thorns on the fruits themselves. This does not. These fruits are totally smooth.
What's it taste like?
More juicy than a regular salac. Different taste. Not quite as much pulp to seed ratio as like a Bali salac.
It's related to what other fruits that more commonly?
Well, it's a palm.
Palm.
It's a thorny palm, a small thorny palm. They don't make trunks, but they make lots of, big thorny branches that are, 4 meters tall. They're big plants, and they sucker, so they get to be big, wide plants too. Actually, we've had some natural hybrids there, I think. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a thornless variety too, a thornless type of Bali salac. And there's a lot of other species. There's one in Thailand that's kind of sour, but very aromatic, like good for juices and jams type thing, cooking. This is the Thai salac, the sour one. They're not really ripe. You can see the kind of stuff that's turning orange, that's ripe. And that's a red fleshed salac, which I got from Frankie on Oahu. Like a Bali salac, usually the flesh is white inside. This one has red flesh.
Is the leaf different on that salad?
Is the taste
The
different?
leaf shape of the plant.
Not that I've noticed.
I have one that has a very flat, open leaf. It doesn't actually.
It hasn't separated.
Yeah. What do you think that means?
It hasn't separated because it's a new leaf, you mean, or
Like now
Quite
the leaves
mature.
are separating, they're just staying one solid leaf.
just one solid leaf?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like Salaca magnifica. Magnificent salac. And those leaves get to be really big. It's really beautiful. The fruits are sour.
Okay.
They're not grown for fruits usually, but it's a beautiful plant. If that's what you have. That's the only entire leaf one that I know. And it's dioecious. All salacs are dioecious except for Bali salac, which are not actually monoecious but parthen or carpic. Like mangosteen, they reproduce asexually. Yeah, I should have put a picture of a Salaca magnifica in here. These are just some seeds and fruits. This is a Solanum, like what they call naranjilla in Latin America. I think you see them here some, a little bit, I think.
What's the fruit like?
This is a different species. These are small and red. The typical naranjilla, the typical Solanum quitoensis, is Andes berry, sometimes they call it, about this big and orange and very aromatic and nice with green flesh. Tart. This one is sweet. This is another relative.
What's the elevation range of that one? Is that one?
Lowlands. It's lowlands. It's really pretty too. As is the other one. It's fungi on the back of a leaf.
Wow, how
On the
pretty.
forest floor. Isn't that amazing? This is a miracle fruit relative. You guys know about miracle fruits? Everybody does, huh? My neighbor, my friend Brent, who I'm staying with, brought some miracle fruits. Really fun to give them to people who don't know what they're going to get. You tell them that, I always tell them that they have to be over 21 and they have to have signed the release. And after you give it to them, you give them a mirror and tell them to look. It's really fun to give people miracle fruit. So if any of you know somebody who's never heard of a miracle fruit, you could maybe come and grab one of these. Give it to them.
I've never heard of it, but I'm not going to volunteer.
Okay. This is a miracle fruit relative.
December.
Big tree, actually. Kind of nice fruits. Don't have the miracle fruits. The same genus as miracle fruit, but does not have the miracle fruit effect. The sense of pollen.
Makes everything sweet.
You're not supposed to tell. No, in case anybody. I've seen this in Hawaii, actually. But the common name, actually this is an African one, but there's one in local native one that they call huevo de tigre, which means tiger's balls. So they come in pairs like that and even have sort of veins that makes it look sort of animal-like. Very nice fragrant flowers. And some of them, the American one is edible. This one I think is edible but not very good. And you see this one here in Ecuador. The American one is smaller. The tigers in Africa are bigger than the tigers in Ecuador.
Is the flower fragrant?
Yeah, super
Like a
fragrant.
gardenia?
Well, yeah, it's not a gardenia, but
Yeah, it looks like
but yeah, super fragrant. It's Taberna montana is the genus. Apaconacea. This is a male inflorescence of tagua palm, which is vegetable ivory. Great big seeds that people carve and make stuff that you can make out of ivory. Super hard seeds. You can also, the immature fruits you can also eat like a coconut, like an immature coconut, with water and flesh inside. Cacao. So Ecuadorian cacao is pretty famous. And it has been historically. There's a certain aromatic property of Ecuadorian cacao that it's always had, that 100 years ago when people were first starting to get into chocolate, all the makers of the best chocolate had to have a little bit of Ecuadorian chocolate to put in their mix. And then gradually that property, as the diseases came in and people became more interested in production and disease resistance than quality, that aromatic property kind of disappeared little by little. And now, just in the last 10 years, when chocolate is all of a sudden good for you and all the rage and being planted a lot, they're getting these back, which isn't easy, but some people have done it. Getting the good aromatic qualities back. In fact, there's an Ecuadorian chocolate producer, just one couple, and in a recent chocolate fest they had in Europe, when all the best chocolate makers get together and have a contest as who has the best chocolate. They gave like 13 prizes for all different kinds of chocolate, and this one Ecuadorian maker won 9 first prizes.
Whoa!
It's really special, Ecuadorian chocolate.
Can you say more? What do you mean by aromatic qualities? Like what specifically? They have a strong smell. When you can actually smell, you can tell the difference when you're eating Ecuadorian chocolate.
Yes, I think so. I can't say that I'm very good at that, but I believe people can, yes. And not all Ecuadorian chocolate is the same, too. Actually, my friend Brent tells me that they sell the kind of chocolate I was talking about. They sell little bars. He saw them for $9 a little bar. So they're outrageously expensive. And it's hard to get back that aromatic quality, after it's been bred out and lost. They have to go searching. And then they have to find farmers who will grow it. And they have to keep it from getting contaminated from the other regular kind of cacao.
Mm-hmm.
Your area doesn't grow cacao, or does it?
Yeah, some. Traditionally, yes. Not a great deal, but yeah. Since it's so wet, it's a lot of problems with diseases.
That's it.
This is the Theobroma bicolor. This is another cacao relative that has really good edible nuts. And traditionally, it has edible pulp you can suck too. Most people don't like it, but Oscar likes it, I believe.
What's it called?
Theobroma bicolor. Has some common names. Cacao is a common name on the coast.
You call it white cacao.
When those shells, by the way, are really hard and beautiful, people use them for cups and so on. Traditionally, the seeds are eaten fresh. You have to, with your teeth, you have to peel off the peel and just get the inside part, which is then roasted or fried or even ground and made into a paste. And they're like chocolate. They're really rich and oily and delicious and addictive. And not like chocolate at all, really. Not chocolatey, but very good. You know, it's a nut. You can use it in cookies, you use it in anything you want to use a nut in. You know, we also, what we do with them is dry them. And then roast them, and then break the shell off, and we have the nut. It's a little tedious. It's hard to separate the shell from the seed.
When you dry them, Jim, do you just sun dry them or you put them in the oven or?
Just sun dry them.
Okay, so you use a screen to keep the bugs out or it doesn't attract bugs? No?
So usually, what I do usually do is rinse them real briefly, which gets them some of that pulp off, which you don't do with cacao. Huh? And I don't ferment them either. I've tried fermenting them and I'm not impressed. Yeah, you rinse it off and then it's a little quicker to dry. It still takes longer because it's got all that pulp. But the pulp just dries on the outer shell and it doesn't matter. You're going to break it off and throw it away. And it's going to get, if it dries slowly, it's going to get fungi too, attracting to all that pulp. So that doesn't matter. The same as cacao too. It doesn't matter if it has fungi on the outside, that's on the shell. As long as the bean is whole, it's not going to get inside and affect the bean. This is another Theobroma, another cacao relative. Really beautiful. Really yummy pulp. Actually, it's totally resistant to Monelia, which is the worst fungus disease that they get in Ecuador.
What is that called?
Theobroma glauca, or glaucum. Glaucum. This is a close-up of those same flowers. Yeah, a lot of the Theobromas are very ornamental too.
Grow on the trunk.
Yep, right on the trunk. And this is another Theobroma, seemingly undescribed, which is pretty amazing for a Theobroma. You know, they've spent some energy looking for all the Theobromas to breed with cacao. No one seems to know this one. It's from the Ecuadorian coast. The guy who works with indigenous people there got it for me. I call it Theobroma San Lorenzo, because it came from that area. Beautiful flowering tree. Interestingly enough, from a single pod, from any tree, you plant the seeds, and half of them will have red flowers, and half of them will have yellow flowers from the same fruit. And they're all, they have good edible pulp, kind of sweetish. And the seeds are more chocolate-like than most of the other Theobromas, except for chocolate. The seeds are nice. It's hard to get the shell off of these things. But just for a flowering tree, it's worth it. That's another Theobroma subencanum from the Amazon. Very edible, very good edible pulp also. This is the Sacha Inchi, or Oscar called it mani.
Inca peanut. Inca peanut.
Inca peanut, which has lots of omega-3.
How do you process it?
You just roast it. You have to take a couple shells off and roast it. You have to roast it. Raw, it's terrible. It's inedible raw. And they extract oil too. What you can buy in the health food store is sometimes the nuts, but most often the oil. Because that's where the omega-3 is. There seems to be some question about whether the omega-3 in plants is the same thing as the omega-3 that you get usually in fish. But some people who pay all that money for that oil think it's worth it. Actually, I have a friend who says he drinks this oil every morning and he doesn't forget stuff anymore. That's the evidence.
I'll try it.
This is a giant Ticasso. Same genus, Blucanetia. The squirrels eat them all also. This is a Clusiacea. The orange pulp around the seeds is actually edible. But they're dehiscent, when they're ripening they're closed and they open up like this when they're ripe. And then the toucans come and eat it. You can see the yellow sap that Clusiaceas have, mangosteen family stuff has the yellow sap on the tips. I'm not sure what that is, or how it's got in there. I think it might be an Asian gourd of some kind, snake gourd or something. Chontaduro or pehibaye, you see that in Ecuador a bit. I mean in Hawaii a bit. It's a palm, a thorny palm, starchy, oily fruits, and really good. Wherever they're common, they're people's favorite fruit. A bit of an acquired taste. A lot of times when people try them at first, they don't like them that much. Yeah, good ones are really oily and starchy and good. And very productive.
How big is that?
This is a different variety. These stripes are not common. This is a different variety.
How many trees would you plant for a family?
Yeah, the fruits are maybe that big.
Could you repeat the scientific name for that one?
Bactris.
Oh, it's one.
Yeah, Bactris. Gassi pius.
It's just a peach palm.
Yeah, it's a peach palm. Not a very good name for it, but yeah, they do call it peach palm. Because it's orange, I guess. Yeah, how many do you need for a family? I don't know. When there's a harvest, it produces pretty much. But it doesn't harvest a year round. It's, 1 or 2 harvests a year. You can dry them, you can freeze them.
Do you need multiple trees for production?
No. And there are thornless types too.
You can them
See.
pretty easily too.
John Mood, who just moved away from the Homakua coast, has thornless varieties. And varieties you can eat the peel too. Typically you do not eat the peel. But yeah, sure enough, they're highly variable. And some of them they're kind of dry, but others of them are very, very good. And of course it's a complete food. It's got protein and oil, and you can live on these. This is an Annonaceae. Almost more of an ornamental, although those are edible. It's an Uvaria from Africa. Small. This is the ginger that somebody asked about. At Lingera venusta. Like all the ginger, if you get that thing when it first comes up, it's tender and you can suck on those things. But mostly it's an ornamental. And you can see the flower there. Huh? That's the fruit. And that's the flower down there. I think I'm almost done. So I'm maybe just going to finish before we do the break.
Sure.
I think I'm almost done.
Oh.
An 18-year-old kid came who wanted to be a photographer for National Geographic when he grew up. And he got that picture. And he really liked snakes too. He got that picture. Not a poisonous snake. That's that same Anthurium actually. Okay, this is Christmas time. For sure when we had the kids, we always brought a tree into the house for a Christmas tree. I think it was a coffee tree this year. And one of our decorations is always this little carved, Meredith carved it up, also a little carved toucan. But this year, toucan flew into the house and landed on the tree. And what's more amazing, somebody took a picture. And that's it. That's the last one. Oh, great time. So we're going to have a break, huh?
Sure, or, we could maybe end early and stay and just do questions or something, or whatever you feel like, really.
Okay, well, for sure. Be happy to stay.
Maybe we'll have a break and then come back for,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Q&A time.